I want to specifically address Dark Phoenix, but there's been a sprinkling of trailers lately. Now, I guess there's always trailers coming out when you get right down to it. But only about 1 in 10, maybe roughly, seem to get regarded by the masses as having been good. They're almost always, oh man, that was crappy. This movie's going to suck. And in reality, time after time, over the course of all of our lives, the movies we watch don't always sync up with the trailers in terms of quality. There's been bad trailers that had great movies and good trailers that had bad movies. So it's hard to say what Dark Phoenix is going to be until we see it. However, I've heard it be said on a few YouTube channels that because they're playing a cover song of The Doors' This Is the End over it, that somehow this is an indication that, yes, this is our final Fox X-Men movie. It's all going to be MCU now, baby. Except not. That's not what's happening. Bob Iger has put Kevin Feige in charge of the X-Men, but they're not being moved. The licensing isn't being moved around within the company. 20th Century Fox, even if it's a bit more shrunk and streamlined than it used to be after the merger is completely done, is still going to be producing its own movies in-house under the umbrella, in the way that the Marvel Studios is its own little thing, and Lucasfilm is its own little thing, and Jim Henson Studios are their own little thing. They're semi-independent, but owned by Disney. But Disney's influence over them is by and large just purely through financing. By choosing what things to fund, you ultimately dictate what's being put out. But beyond that, how these studios are doing it and what they're proposing to get funding for is up to these little studios. Disney's deciding whether or not they're going to lay money on it, basically, is the real simplified, reductionist version of what's happening here. And I still have not actually heard anything from an actual studio head from either of these entities about the Fantastic Four being moved to Marvel Studios and the licensing being transferred. Just because both companies are owned by the same parent company does not necessarily mean that handing around licensed IP properties is just willy-nilly, free ball easy. Yeah, they probably could do it without having to spin an arm and a leg to do it, but there'd still have to be paperwork and some legal drama and some other things like that. And also, you already have 20th Century Fox making the damn things. They already have stuff in the pipeline being made. They have things in the works. You already have an established working cinematic universe. The X-Men universe might not be quite as expansive as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I think some people are kind of wrong when they say that only the MCU has pulled it off. The X-Men have had their spin-off movies, not as many, and the X-Men movies themselves have been very varied in tone and storytelling style at times, even though there's consistency in the look. I do agree that they do try a little too hard to try to make it gritty and realistic. It was understandable early on when they were first getting the project off the ground back in 2000, or actually really 1998 or 99, whenever they actually started filming the motherfucker. But we're past that now. We live in a world where we've had big hit movies with talking raccoons in them. So I think we can have a bit more of a silly, maybe not silly is the right term, although there are a few characters that are pretty fucking silly in the X-Men comics. If they ever brought Warlock or anything like that in. But they don't have to just drop everything. And in fact, this morning I heard some stuff that Simon Kinberg, who is a person of note at Fox, talking about things they're planning on doing still with this damn Gambit movie they've been talking about making for forever. I still don't know if, Gambit was never any of the X-Men characters that I cared for. I was always actually rather anti-Gambit, so I'm not like, just for that, I don't care. But it's an indication that, well, okay, so yeah, Fox is still going to be making the X-Men movies. They're just going to be being guided by Kevin Feige. Also, this will make it easy, and what I think is ultimately the goal here is this is going to lead up to Secret Wars in about a decade from now. The X-Men movies, there's going to be some subtle changes in tone, probably. They'll probably become a bit more fun, and hopefully the consistency will be better. And with Kevin Feige around, if they use that same kind of staggered long-term setup planning that they've been using with Marvel, where it's not that you've already written all these scripts for 10 movies, but you know enough that like we'd like to be able to do this one day, and if we can get to that point, that's great. So let's just drop a little line here just in case. And if it doesn't pay off, who cares? It's just one line. Ignore it. And they can start doing that better with the X-Men movies, with people, and also be able to consult more directly with Marvel Comics, even if they're not in studio, so to speak. They're just around the corner and are a lot more friendlier terms now than they used to be. This also could be really good news for the X-Men in comics. The X-Men for years have been kind of downgraded because Marvel not really wanting to promote the IPs that they ended up licensing off to other companies during their little period of near bankruptcy. But now they have a financial incentive to be all on board on making the X-Men the flagship comic that it used to be and should be. So hopefully this means that New Mutants is still coming, although I guess it's also getting delayed in minor reshoots. And Dark Phoenix has had reshoots right after the purchase, right after it was finally signed and official that Disney and Fox, it's a thing, it's go, it's green. It's not done yet, but the process can begin. It's happening, people. Dark Phoenix was immediately delayed and put into like some little minor reshoots to adjust a few things, but they didn't can it. I haven't heard any specific news about New Mutants, but seeing that one of Fox's main guys is talking about their plans for continuing with this Gambit movie that they've been trying to make, to me sounds like, well, if they already have New Mutants in the can, they're going to end up releasing it. This also might mean that we might still get our James Franco Multiple Man movie and a Shadowcat movie, which I look forward to. And one of my complaints with how the Fox movies of X-Men have gone along it goes back to the very first one by having Rogue be young and be the young girl being introduced to the world of the X-Men character. That's not who Rogue was. That was supposed to be Kitty Pryde or Jubilee, maybe. In both cases, like the two main female protagonists, really, of the X-Men in terms of the audience's point of view character for two major iconic chunks of the X-Men's comic run were both sidelined really poorly in the X-Men movies. Shadowcat definitely at least had like some lines here and there and a few things to do. Jubilee just really just got the shaft, and not in a good way. So I look forward to a Shadowcat movie coming too. And yeah, give it a few years. Get the X-Men movies adjusted so that they're consistently good, and they've got some of their own internal plot lines resolved. It's a shame that they're blowing their wad on Dark Phoenix already under the circumstances, because Dark Phoenix is best if it's staged properly over time, so you're actually really attached to the love bond of these characters and why this is all tragic. And I don't think these movies has given us nearly enough time to really feel that way about Jean and Scott, at least not this variation of them. But yeah, a few years, get them settled in, have the X-Men movies become good, figure out who's going to be Wolverine, because we're going to have to bring Wolverine back. That means recasting him, because Hugh Jackman has officially walked away from the part, and also I'm not 100% sure on this, but I could have sworn I heard that his cancer had come back, so that might also be a factor of him not wanting to play Wolverine anymore. Like all the working out and vitamins and shit just might be stressing his body out. And oh my God, what a day that's going to be when they announce the new Wolverine. Can you imagine what the internet's going to do? God. Maybe they should just go forward and do X-23 movies instead and just not even touch it. But of course, that's going to cause its own controversies now, isn't it?